Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will be taking a look at the various loony tribes of goblins that vie for the Bad Moon's attention. From spider-worshipping shadow wizards to drug dealers that recruit junkie giants to do their dirty work, the ways in which the Grotts get by are as crazy as they are cunning. This mad cunning has seen them flourish all over the mortal realms, and tonight I will take you on a tour through their wacky fiefdoms, unhinged tribes and cookie alliances. For it's time for the Gloomspite Gitz faction video.
The Bad Moon spoke to me once.
We're starting off with the King's Gitz, the personal #lifehack of Loon King Scraggrot, who is the self-proclaimed leader of goblinkind. And you better respect that proclamation unless you're looking to get turned into a mumbling shroomling. I don't want to get too deep into it, but to understand the King's Gitz you have to understand a bit about Scraggrot and the type of underlings he leads. The Gloomspite Gitz is a catch-all term for a variety of wacky creatures, ranging from the more or less sentient Troggherds to the impulse-controlled animals that inhabit the damp corners of the mortal realms. From squigs to goblins and from spiders to Troggherds, there is little that unites these creatures except a longing for the comfortable moonlight of the Bad Moon. This crazy celestial object, which seemingly takes pleasure in whacking other celestial objects with its satellite moon, radiates the surrounding area with a maddening glow that causes insanity in a majority of races. The people might be plagued by brain-breaking nightmares, food turns to maggot-infested slop, and to humble Jesus, water is turned into a murky slop as well. Yet amongst these portents of doom, the various Gloomspite creatures thrive. Like a designer drug, the moon fills them with euphoria and courage, causing all of them to band together and bring their worst to the surface dwellers. In doing this, they all hope that they can impress the moon so much that it will stay around forever. This mythical state, known as the Everdank, would see their surroundings turned into a mushy shroomland and insect-filled swamp, where the pleasing mania caused by the Bad Moon would never stop. So far, they have not managed to reach this state, and thus the Gitz chase the moon like addicts deprived of their favorite drug. And that, my friends, is where Scraggrot comes into play. Long story short, Scraggrot has figured out a way to somewhat accurately predict the movements of the Bad Moon and thus acts as the proverbial drug dealer to all of Gitkind. This has provided him with a unique position of power, and thus the hordes of crack addicts follow him around religiously. Normally, Gloomspite hordes are extremely poorly organized, partially because of the power struggles, and partially because of the fact that goblins are as courageous as a skaven facing a cat. Because the King's Gitz often fight under the Bad Moon, which fills them with manic determination, the latter is not really an issue for them. Meanwhile, Scraggrot makes sure to rule with an iron grasp to eliminate the worst of the infighting, turning traitors into living shrooms to suffer for all eternity, letting his Troggherd bodyguards pull blasphemers apart limb by limb, or simply feeding teeth to the squigs. As a result, the King's Gitz are the most well-organized army of the Gloomspite Gitz, with everyone working together to avoid the Loon King's ire. Not to mention that those who do well in service of the Loon King are rewarded with exotic shroom potions and luxurious caves. Services only someone with Scraggrot's clout can possibly provide. Other tribes can only look at the King's Gitz with a mixture of fear and jealousy, the latter only being made worse by the unrivaled levels of arrogance and boasting. Realizing that he could never truly compete with the prophecies of the Loon King, Awart the Magnificent has turned to tricks and cons to achieve a similar status. When Awart gained control of the Badsnatchers tribe, he led them to the hushed hills of Ulgu. This land is soaked in perpetual twilight by the thick mists of Ulgu, making the entire land seem like the inside of a coffee shop. Together with his most loyal shamans, he has thus managed to sell the ruse that they have already achieved the Everdank. Let Scraggrot's losers simp after the moon all they want, Awart the Magnificent really knows what's up. He then further solidified his control after taking over the remaining 6 goblin tribes of the Hushed Hills. Not by force, mind you, no, his pathetic army wouldn't have managed to beat one of them, let alone 6, so Awart had to get creative. The Magnificent traveled to the various tribes, and after copious quantities of shroom shots, he started betting with their leaders, eventually proposing something so ridiculous that it seemed impossible. Like, if I eat this entire mangler squig in one go, I own your tribe, and if I fail, you get to own mine. His shamans meanwhile stacked all the odds in his favor and made sure these impossible feats were, or at least seemed like, they were achievable. This way, Awart managed to gain control of 7 Gloomspite tribes and establish the Badsnatchers kingdom. The Badsnatchers still specialize in stealth and trickery and have an extremely high number of shamans amongst their ranks, employing a mixture of Ugu and Bad Moon magic to turn the odds of every fight in their favor. Awart meanwhile seems to suffer from a bit of an imposter syndrome and wants to compensate for it by grotesque displays of wealth. So following his orders, the Badsnatchers go out on elaborate heists and kidnappings to steal anything or anyone of value. And while this can be shiny jewels or rare works of art, they have also been known to steal babies or of nobles to fetch large quantities of ransom money.
My jaws, my jaws.
In case you have been living under a rock for the past 40 years and don't know what a squig is, first of all, consider yourself lucky, but second of all, it is an uncontrollably gnarly fungal animal that can mutate into all sorts of shapes and sizes. The most common form of them, however, is this endearing ball of teeth. A group of squigs is commonly referred to as a squigalanche, named for their tendency to go on rampages, during which this wave of teeth washes over whatever is unlucky enough to be in front of them. They are quite the unstoppable force, which paired with their voracious hunger makes it so that squigalanches rarely stay in one place. The main exception to this are the Jaws of Mork. Found in Ghyran, this horde has roamed the Iskian Veld for as long as people can remember. Here the soil is so fertile that an ecosystem of sorts has been able to form. The horde arrives, eats anything clean, and swiftly continues to another part of the valley. While they are gone, plants regrow and prey species repopulate. The squigs meanwhile also sporulate, causing thousands of baby squigs to grow from the soil. Then when the horde returns, the freshly created biomass is ready for the reaping, and those squigs strong enough to join the ever-expanding squigalanche team up. Around this dangerous valley, many groups of goblins have made their home, capturing, training, breeding and selling squigs to other tribes that are less gifted in the squig department. But keeping all of this together is the secretive and quirky Overbounder. This loom boss has declared that he will one day jump over the Bad Moon atop one of his squigs. In order to prevent the Bad Moon from seeing him coming and taking precautions, he makes sure that no one knows his real identity, covering every inch of his skin in dark squig leather to stay incognitos, as he calls it. He might be slightly insane, I have to admit, but no one is more experienced in the art of squig herding as the Overbounder. Piloting his specially bred Mangler squigs, Gobbet and Champa, he has recently decided to conquer Azir. Not for any logical reason though, no, he wants Azir so he can get a higher vantage point from which to jump over the Bad Moon. Conquering the most heavily defended location in Age of Sigmar might be a bit challenging, but the Old World's remains would give the best angle to jump from.
Thank you. We'll just go.
If you are suffering from arachnophobia, you better avoid the abandoned wildlands of New Lamia. I mean, to be fair, as a mortal you'd probably better avoid the undead empire of Neferata anyways, but in this case I'm specifically talking to you about this little spider problem. In Age of Sigmar there's a little thing called Arachnarok spiders. Similar to Aragog from Harry Potter, these are massive spiders with a good set of brains, and the forests of New Lamia happen to be full of them. Another thing you should know is that a significant portion of grots have this weird fascination with spiders. These so-called Spiderfang tribes are considered insane by most of grot kind and by most non-grots as well. They worship the possibly non-existent god of spiders and believe the Bad Moon is a massive spider egg that will one day hatch to coat the realms in spiders. A torrent of 8-legged angels that will cleanse the realm from the unbelievers. Regardless, when the Arachnova witnesses stumbled upon these aforementioned house-sized spiders, they naturally started to worship them as their arachnid overlords. The cunning Skitterstrand Arachnaroks of New Lamia were somewhat confused at the grots' worship at first, but when they started to bring tasty human sacrifices, the spiders soon started to see the upsides of this arrangement. Nowadays they live in a symbiosis of sorts. The spiders provide strong strands of web for the grots to make traps out of. From pitfall traps to complex Indiana Jones-like constructions, they use these to capture anything foolish enough to enter their woods, getting to keep some spoils for themselves while offering the juicy victims to their hairy gods. They launch raids on human settlements, using smaller horse-sized spiders as their mounts. Here they use a mixture of spider venom, web nets and spider portals to ambush and capture as many living creatures as possible. Because since these mega spiders weren't scary enough yet, they can also create minor portals that allow the grots to teleport right behind enemy lines. Finally, I should mention that while they are collectively called the Grimscuttle, they are actually made up out of many smaller tribes that all have their own Skitterstrand overlord. As a 3rd edition, the Grave Feasters tribe has the most renown. Their Ragnarok is called Boss Seven Eyes and is rumored to have gained his power and strength by preying on the Sanguinarchs of Neferata.
It's humongous.
Okay. Humongous what?
If creepy, crawly critters aren't your cup of tea, then Glogg's Megamob might be more to your liking, for this is the dedicated Troggherd army of 3rd edition. Troggods, or as people without dyslexia would call them, trolls, are chunky boys with amazing regeneration capabilities and even more impressive evolutionary capabilities. You can chop a head of a Troggherd, and unless you burn it, it will likely just grow a new body within a day. But more interesting is that these grimdark Kirby's can in a few generations evolve a new subspecies perfectly adapted to their new surroundings. A part of this has to do with their bodies mutating based on whatever they eat. The new Drecky Flynn book, for an example, sees Troggods that have consumed a bunch of ice and thus they have transformed in what we would call Yetis. Anyways, back to the point, Glogg's Megamob is the largest herd of these creatures ever witnessed in immortal realms. All following a dank-hole Trogg boss named Glogg, they roam the plains of Thundia and Gur. Here they are somewhat of a force of nature. In a seemingly random manner, they travel across the plains, eating, breaking or otherwise destroying anything in the near vicinity. It could be these brutes simply do what pleases them in the moment. However, the fact that Glogg seems more intelligent than most Troggods, and the fact that they carry around loon shrines with them, causes some worry among some Gurish leaders. Although to be honest, smart for a Troggherd isn't exactly a bar to write home about. Regardless, as a precaution, many factions have sent armies to try and destroy this Troggherd. Mages have unleashed entire nuclear hellstorms on the horde, only for them to walk out of hell like nothing happened. Armies have launched half of Kamen at them with their guns and artillery, only managing to piss the trolls off. The armies of Order even cut Glogg into pieces during the Siege of Excelsis, but you can guess it, he just regrew from one of the bits. Glogg's Megamob is here to stay, and good luck if you want to do something about it. You'd be better off trying to get the Blaze of Corn to join your mindfulness training. Now these 5 are the quote-unquote major tribes that actually have rules in 3rd edition, but of course there are plenty of others found in the lore that don't have this elevated status. But as always, since we're here for the lore and not for the tabletop, let me introduce you to a bunch of these minor tribes as well. During the Age of Myth, there was a large diaspora of grot tribes. All of them developed their own ways of living, religion and technology. Most famous are of course the Night Goblins, who went underground and started to worship the moon, or the Spiderfangs, who became arachnid simps. Yet there are also entire archetypes that we haven't seen explored much yet. One of these are the Grotbag Scuttlers, who took to the skies and started to infest the floating steampunk cities of the Caradron overlords. From their main hub, called the Moon City, they launch fleets of stolen Caradron ships like a mushroom launches its spores. Upon locating another Caradron city, they crash their ships into the city and unleash hordes of grots, beasts and Troggods. Soon the city will be turned into another mushroom-infested ruin in which the Scuttlers feel perfectly at home. From here they will then prepare new spore ships to send out into the skies, slowly expanding their airborne empire like a fungal infection. More recently, they have also started to ship the technological marvels of the Caradron they find back to Moon City. Here the shamans attach these weapons, tools and prototypes to the various squigs. These potent balls of death, called Clanka squigs for the metallic noises they produce, are then sold back to the other tribes for large quantities of shrooms and potions. Also fun fact, the 2nd edition tome makes an offhand comment about underwater tribes of grots, so who knows, maybe one day we might get some mermaid grots to add to the roster. During the Age of Chaos, there was a famous fungoid cave shaman called Zigznak, who believed he could defeat the Gore Tide led by Korkas Kul. A foolish errand, as Kul has a novel while Zigznak does not, so naturally the plot armor favored the Chosen of Khorne. During the brutal war that followed, the entire Wa of Zigznak was butchered as an offering to Khorne. This bloody example quickly convinced most tribes that they should try to hide from chaos rather than facing them head on. Narkleg's tribe as such fled and sought refuge in the glinting deeps of Kamon. They managed to befriend the local Troggherd population, and as such they created a bit of a safe haven for the Grots of Common. Narkleg's Badstabbas renamed the caverns to Stab Hole and quickly bred a large population of Segmapedes to start expanding the place. Many Grots sought a safe dark place to stay during the Age of Chaos, and thus the Badstabbas tribe grew exponentially. Unfortunately, this expansionistic drive also came to bite them back in the ass, since they accidentally delved into a magma hold. The Sigrun Lodge of Fire Slayers had very much the same idea as the Grots, and they too had a massive population seeking refuge in the deeps. Needless to say, this led to a massive close quarters war that may still be going on today. The self-proclaimed Grand Boss Git King Fangsplitta the Magnificent plans to chain massive balls of loonstone to the Bad Moon to turn the moon itself into a Grot Fanatic. The exact specifics of this plan are yet to be revealed, but during the Flame World War, his tribe did manage to steal one of the giant-sized chains that bound the god beast Ignax. What happened to the relic afterward and what they're currently cooking remains to be seen, yet I'm sure that whatever this Fanatic specialized horde does with it, it won't be anything pleasant. One day, a massive dank-hole Trogg boss named Murkthudd went for a walk. Many Troggods, Squigs and Critters soon decided to join him, and a considerably large Troggherd was formed. This herd then marched to the port city of Azurvale and fought a brutal siege against this militia and stormhost. Eventually they broke through the walls and did nothing. They literally just continued their march and walked off into the ocean behind the city. Yet rumors do appear every now and then of a massive Troggherd army covered in seaweed that ravages locations around the Ferrous Sea. Zarbag and his entourage are the closest thing the Gloomspite had to a pirate crew. These greedy Gits traveled the realms on all sorts of crazy adventures to amass as many shiny things as they could get their hands on. All led by the shaman Zarbag, who would use his mushroom-induced hallucinations to predict the location of their next treasure hoard. One eventful night, Zarbag and his gang accidentally ended up in the Mirrored City. They have forgotten how they got there, but they all awakened in a field of deathcap mushrooms. These are highly valued mushrooms amongst Grot kind for their ability to induce extremely potent prophetic visions. Basically, they are the Gloomspite equivalent of the Augur Stone sold in Excelsis. Since they for some reason flourish in the cursed lands of the Mirrored City, Zarbag has launched his master plan to fill the entire city with these shrooms. Once completed, his gang will be able to set up a trade emporium of deathcaps that would make them richer than Greece's Goldtooth. And if that sounds cool, these guys exist as an underworld warband, so you can actually get them yourself. The Kindling Forest in Vitriola, Akshi, is a peculiar forest. On one hand, it is filled with rapidly growing trees that flourish on the Akshi root-filled ground of the forest. On the other hand, it is the natural habitat of the wildfire spirits who do nothing but fly through the woods and set fire to everything they touch. Claggit Smotherers inhabit their roots beneath these woods, and as a result of the constant wildfires, they have acquired an absolute hatred for fire. Their abhorrence for fire burns with a passion, and thus they have launched a pyrophobic crusade to remove every flame from existence. Their leader, Loon Boss Claggit, even claims that fire is a personification of the much-hated glare-faced Frazzleshun, and that by killing each fire in the realms, they will bring about the Everdank. And thus, under the command of Grand Smother Dowser Claggit, these Gits travel far and wide to attack Fire Slayers, Zintia Mages, Blacksmiths, Skaven, or basically anyone who dares to light a fire. They have a green-grey color scheme and particularly love Fellwater Troggods who can quickly put out fires with their puke beams. With a few rare exceptions, the Grots hate nothing more than sunlight, and so the Frazzleshun tribes naturally decided to make their home in Aish, the realm of light. Hilariously enough, they even decided to do so in a chasm-filled landscape called Revelatia. The tribe's leading council of 8 shamans, called the Spider's Eyes, were happy to find some shadowy depths in the realms of light, but they also decided that it should become their #1 priority to snuff out the migraine-inducing light once and for all. After finding a realm gate to Ugu, they started a lucrative collaboration with the Skuro Stabber tribe. The Frazzleshun provides spider-related products such as poison and mounts, and in return they get paid in Fallstone, the shadowy realm stone of Ugu. By feeding this to their Ragnarok spiders, they cause the spiders to secrete an inky substance called Shadow Silk. This material seems to absorb light around it, and by coating their chasms with it, they have turned Revelatia into a shadow realm, which does very little revealing. From here they launch Shadow Crusades, during which champions clad in Shadow Silk lead vast hordes of spider riders into the Haitian population. Spider-mounted catapults meanwhile shoot large quantities of Shadow Silk into the air. Here it lingers for a while, and thus it blots out the sun so the Grots can fight in darkness. The Glintfang tribes of Common use a similar approach, but with vastly different results. The Glintfang are obsessed with precious metals and hoard them like there's no tomorrow. The shiny metals like gold and silver are fashioned into spider-related jewelry, with the leaders even wearing silver spider teeth, like a weird love child between Nosferatu and a struggling rapper. Things get more interesting, however, in regards to the less shiny metals, as they are fed to their special strain of Arachnaroks. As a result of this iron-rich diet, they produce steel silk, a material that is part spiderweb, part steel cable. The Grots use this to enhance their weapons and armor, to improve the structural integrity of their lair, but also to build nets to capture ether gold. This latter aspect allows them to build balloon-like constructs that they use to get a drop on unsuspecting enemies. After all, most expect goblins to come from below rather than from above. Drizzledeff is not particularly interesting outside of the fact that they have the coolest color scheme imaginable. The Drizzledeff tribes live in the Humidian jungles of Gyran. These forests are filled with the bright colors of the various flora and fauna that inhabit it. As you might know, bright colors are often a sign of an animal being poisonous, and the gaudy spiders of the jungle are no exception. The Grots revere these extremely poisonous spiders, and as a religious rite, they paint themselves with colorful war paints. So if you're looking to start a very colorful spider army with flamboyant Grots, look no further. There's also the insect-themed Grot tribe led by Zograd, but you should really just read his book if you like to know more, because it's a great novel. And that basically rounds up the tribes I want to cover today. I'm personally quite a big fan of the poster boys in this case, because I really appreciate how Scraggrot manages to keep such a large and varied army together, getting the violent squigs, cowardly Grots, retarded Troggherds, egoistic spiders and crazy shroom addicts on the same page truly is an impressive feat. Although trying to make some cool kid bashes for the Grotbag Scuttlers also seems like a really fun project. Anyways, please let me know your favorite in the comments down below, and don't forget to click the subscribe button for more Warhammer shenanigans.
You've reached the end of this Vox message. If this sparked your pleasure centers, make sure to anoint the subscribe button. Thank you for visiting Bathelloren. May the Omnissiah be with you.